We are back, episode 12 of Spilling the Tea, and we have Mr. Trevor Jones, Mind Your Golf, back on. Last time, we got such a great response with the episode that you was on, Trevor, so it's great to have you back on whilst I've rejuvenated this podcast. We've obviously spoken a little bit, maybe potentially about doing a 10 with Trev on Instagram, which would be pretty wicked. But something I would like to open up with you today is called imposter syndrome. I've worked with a lot of golf coaches that are in a similar boat with me who just, I mean, this feels like to me it gets in the way of my career a lot. It definitely gets in a lot of good players' careers a lot. And definitely a lot of coaches that I know. So it'd be great to open this can of worms and get your thoughts around it and what it is to you, what it potentially can do to people, and how maybe potentially you can make yourself get a little bit better with it. I will leave this to you because you'll do this a lot better than me. What would you say imposter syndrome is?
But it's kind of, obviously I really appreciated you reaching out again. It's great to be back on the show. But maybe if you share my response to when you reached out about imposter syndrome, what did I say?
Let me find it real quick. But it was something about only narcissists don't get it.
Yeah.
I remember
And
that.
I think it was something like,
Everyone
I'm not sure.
can relate. Narcissists are the only group that doesn't struggle with imposter syndrome. And then you also told me that I'm not sure I know enough about it. You joked me with a joke.
So yeah, I mean this is something that I've had. Pretty much. It was actually, I really appreciated you reaching out about this topic because actually I've reflected on it quite a bit the last few days. And I kind of came to this interesting conclusion that I would say that imposter syndrome was probably one of the main things in terms of ending my playing career, or that actually held me back. So being able to reflect on that a bit was pretty interesting. Like I remember my first ever European tour event. So I showed up, Wales Open, Celtic Manor, walking out onto the driving range, and these guys are just flushing it. Yeah. Like from what I can see, nobody's missing a shot.
Yeah.
I think I was practicing next to Alex Noren actually for the first event. And I shot 79 in a pro-am 2 weeks before. And my game was in an absolute state.
Uh-oh.
And you know what? I could play. Like I was a national champion at that point, and I'd, won 5 tournaments in a row and shot loads under par. And, I had some game.
Yeah.
But it was interesting how the cultural response to that imposter syndrome are things like, well, let's really work on someone's self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's really kind of build up your self-esteem.
Yeah.
This kind of sense of self-belief. Let's look at all the evidence. Let's really boost this up. You are good enough. This thing comes up. What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not competent enough? What if I get found out? Right. Yeah. Let's look at all the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about this thing? What about this? Is like the classic cultural response to that issue. And do you know what? When they reviewed, because self-esteem has fascinated psychology for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And they reviewed 20,000 studies into self-esteem interventions. And do you know what they found?
Not many of them worked.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
There was no benefit to trying to improve someone's self-esteem. That was a review of 20,000 studies.
Yeah.
So what psychology has now collectively said, obviously you can't ignore the evidence, is that this concept of self-esteem has done way more harm than good.
Right.
Yeah. Like this kind of artificial boosting of your self-belief, your self-confidence, how you relate to yourself has actually done more harm than good.
Because
Like,
you
isn't
can,
that, what do you think of that?
well, the way I would the way that then makes me think is subconsciously you still feel like an imposter. So consciously, whether you're trying or not to keep your self-esteem high, subconsciously you still feel like an imposter. You still feel like you shouldn't be there, or whatever the feeling, the thought process is. So it makes sense, but yeah, it's almost like a band-aid that is ready to always go.
Like if we were to take that, me walking out into the driving range, the
Yeah,
room's open,
I do that on the PGA driving ranges.
yeah, yeah, because there's some good players, right?
Well,
Yeah, some good players, and
better than me.
there are some good players there that have done some special stuff and have probably played on tour and can hit the ball really well. Yeah. And obviously, people tend to do better on the driving range. That's no different. We've seen that Tiger Woods over the years, right? Absolutely flashing up the driving range, gets on the first tee, snap hooks it.
Oh
But
yeah,
other players don't see that on the
no,
driving range, right? So, if we go back to, Jimenez was there, Alex Noren was there. I remember actually Corey Paved was there because it was Ryder Cup year. Yeah.
okay,
Or,
yeah,
it was the year before the Ryder Cup. So he was there kind of on a scouting mission.
yeah,
The guys won the US Open.
yeah,
Yeah. He couldn't hit the ball out of his own shadow, right? But he was hitting 7 irons, 135, but they were landing on a napkin. And in that moment, let's just imagine. So I've got all of this kind of imposter stuff.
yeah,
And let's imagine in this moment that I then, or someone comes in like, but what about this? And what about this? And what about these things you've done? And what about that shot you hit?
yeah,
Right. And that could all be like, let's look at the evidence. Now that could all be true, but I can just feel, I don't know if you can sense it, that there's a part of me that's digging its heels in.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Because there's this other little query, but what if?
yeah,
You know, if I do a tin cup, if I start shanking a ball on the range, or if I shoot this score, or if I slice one or whatever, yeah, like
yeah,
how am I going to feel there?
yeah,
So when you look at the underlying mechanisms kind of underneath something like imposter syndrome,
yeah,
it's really driven by two key things from what I can see, is a yearning for competence and a yearning to belong.
yeah,
Yeah. These are the two main mechanisms. And, you know, if we look back evolutionary wise and think about these small groups that we existed in, yeah, like to be competent at something, whether that be hunting or, making stuff or whatever it is, being able to make fire, right? That's a really useful contribution to the group.
yeah,
Yeah. And that second aspect of that yearning to belong, yeah, basically a very famous social psychologist back in the 70s, Harry Harlow, who did lots of studies of monkeys,
right,
came up with this great saying: a lone monkey is a dead monkey. So if you're out of the group, you're in trouble.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, it isn't that far back in our evolutionary history where that would actually be true. So we've got these minds that are still carrying that sense of we need to be in the group, we need to be competent. But now it doesn't quite fit the situation. We don't have the snakes, tigers, lions, bears kind of to worry about.
yeah,
Yeah, it's different stuff, but it's there's almost a little bit of an evolutionary mismatch there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's your experience of imposter syndrome?
Um, I mean, I would say I've always struggled with it. Yeah, with knowing it or not, I mean, you can recognize it from a young age, looking back now. Um,
Do you mind if I ask, like, what's the youngest version of you? Like, how tall would you be?
Oh, I reckon start of secondary school.
Mm,
I would have said the youngest I would go back as far. I definitely, in terms of imposter, that's probably it's probably in there before then, but that's when I would most recognize it. I think I went from being in a primary school where top footballer, top person, to going into this like clever, going into secondary school where you're then mid to bottom of the chain at everything, and then you start sort of. I mean, I always was a cheeky chap, but I think that then started to take over to get the yearning, the belonging, because the competence. I mean, I was still competent, but not as competent as the rest of the people there. So
yeah.
then you sort of pick up these personality traits to try and belong, right?
Mm. I mean, there's almost there's a real kind of paradox within that imposter syndrome,
Mm.
particularly with the yearning to belong, because what we so easily slip into is when this is mishandled, is it becomes about defending, lying, and hiding.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this kind of these things that you're able to do or not able to do. Yeah. And this sense of self is it becomes this incredibly inauthentic version of us. Like we end up kind of putting up on like a persona,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
To be able to kind of fit in, to be able to belong to the group. And um, we always have like a Latin lesson in these sessions, don't we? So
yeah.
do you know what,
Always.
do you know do you know what the
My Latin's
do
better
you,
than my English now, thanks.
do you know the origin of the word persona is actually I think it might be the Greek word, but it's a Greek word for a mask.
Yeah,
So it's the mask that actors used to wear.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And we end up, doing all of these defending, lying, hiding,
yeah,
behind essentially what is a mask. Yeah.
yeah,
So the very thing that we're doing to try and fit in actually makes us feel what? More authentic or less authentic?
yeah. Less
Yeah.
subconsciously, less authentic. Yeah,
Yeah. Like more genuine or less genuine?
less genuine.
Yeah. So this is really the origins of it, is where
Yeah,
this kind of these two yearnings that are like really key to survival and key to being human actually get lost as they get mishandled. And like I said, I did kind of joke in that with the narcissist, but really the only human beings that don't experience some kind of imposter type experience are narcissists.
yeah,
Yeah, because they're wearing a mask, but they don't even care. They don't even realize it, right? Just everything, we look at like I'm not kind of pointing fingers here, but the most obvious one that we've seen over the last 10 years is like a Donald Trump.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like just sort of everything's about reflecting on him and how great and grand he is. And
Yeah.
yeah. But
So,
do you want to go for a pint with him?
um, not particularly, particularly.
Do you
He
want
would
do you want him as part of your group?
he wouldn't be my first choice to go and have a drink with. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. But I think again with imposter syndrome, people can go two ways with it, right? They can go, I mean, the way that I would go, and then the way that I've seen people go is, um, I would get thoughts of imposter syndrome, and then go into my shell. Whereas you have people that go the other way, right? That will go imposter syndrome. I'm going on a new level here of just like I am good. This is how good I am. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's the
but
mask again, isn't it? It's like this stage little dance. It's
yeah,
kind of the chest comes out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is
Very
there
much so.
different, would you say there's different ways of dealing with the pair of them, or would it be similar ways of sort of helping?
Well, I think like connecting with the underlying yearnings there
Yeah,
is already an interesting way to kind of see this.
yeah,
And I haven't worked with a client yet who doesn't care a lot about being authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we talk about kind of being genuine to ourselves, being authentic, I think it's also this, we step into this values conversation.
Yeah.
So if you were to be really authentic, if you were to be really genuine, so let's say, you're walking out, if we take this for an example, right?
Yeah.
If you were like, what might be a situation typically where imposter syndrome has showed up for you?
Um, just general, I mean, just probably one of the biggest ones is sitting in a room full of golf coaches would be one of my big ones.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, nice share. I like you putting that out there as well,
Yeah.
knowing that this is being heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, like I do wonder, like, how many other of those coaches
Yeah.
could it be possible are having that same thought?
Yeah.
Don't ask that question. Don't say something that makes you look stupid. And they're kind of, as you said, they're almost a little bit of retreating into their shell. Like, how many others do you think are having that experience potentially?
Probably say there's 10 in the room. I would be close to saying 10, but nine out of 10 would be.
At one point or other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many times have you seen someone kind of put their hand up and ask the obvious question?
Yeah.
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 That you've been like, I can't ask that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's been that sense of like probably relief that someone else has asked it, but also a sense of admiration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you kind of know on some level they felt that, but they still
Yeah. Still
they
went
still
for it.
put their hand up.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how would that, if that imposter syndrome has really kind of got its hooks into you in that situation? Yeah.
Yeah.
And 100%, this is something that we can all relate to. Um, you know, I've gone from, let's say, that showing up on the European Tour driving range. Yeah. And my response to that was at the time more of that typical response, that really trying to change how I felt,
Yeah.
change how um, let's say, going to a little bit of an internal war over that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said, that kind of almost took over, my career was that being more in my head.
Yeah.
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 Being more in my head.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny actually being like, well, maybe it's that kind of behind me now.
Mm,
Maybe I'm not experiencing that imposter syndrome.
yeah.
Um, and yet you send me that message. And I was joking, but there was a tinge of truth in there. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know enough about this. Like,
Yeah.
who am I to be?
Yeah.
And in July, I'm on stage at a world conference, in Buenos Aires in front of how many psychologists I don't know. And guess what's going to show up?
Yeah.
Who am I to speak in front of these people? I don't know enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's this interesting kind of move that we can make in there in terms of, like I said, that if we were to have a values conversation here, yeah, like about the type of uh, person you want to be in that situation, like
Yeah.
genuinely, authentically, what do you think might show up for you?
You want authentically, I'm just genuinely slightly funny and slightly outgoing is, and I think unauthentically, I'm either don't speak or that on steroids.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just,
So you like really
I'll,
retreat into your
yeah,
shell.
I'll retreat or I'll be a class clown.
Okay, okay,
But I think I'm just a nice. Well, a lot of people say it, which is kind of cool, but just a genuine nice person who likes to have a bit of a laugh. That would be where I would be if I sat in the room and I was just being me.
Yeah, okay. So if this imposter syndrome has really got its hooks into you and you kind of retreat into your shell,
Yeah,
yeah, which a lot of people, anyone listens to this, I'm sure that they can relate.
yeah,
Yeah, I sure as hell can.
yeah,
Um, and the cost that comes with that. Yeah, like maybe you end up driving away from that coach's meet and you're just like, damn it, I wish I'd answered that. I wish I'd asked that question.
yeah,
Because like it was the perfect opportunity. Like it
yeah,
was right there. It was like open goal.
yeah,
And that I bet the answer to that question or a conversation that could have come out of that question amongst everyone there, like everyone could have benefited from. Am I wrong?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So when this thing really gets its hooks into you, that retreating into your shell has a cost to it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Um, would you mind just doing a little something now? Do you mind just creating a new bit of history right here?
Yeah.
So there's this kind of classic act, which is acceptance commitment training exercise, where we just kind of say this thing out loud. We're saying this out loud that we can't do while we do the actual thing. So I'm going to say this over and over, and I want you to join in and just say this over and over, but we're actually going to do the thing that we're saying we can't do. Yeah. You right? You with me?
Yeah.
I can't raise my right hand. 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 I can't raise my right hand.
Well, that was easy enough, Trev.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. It's kind of funny that, like, literally that study, yeah.
Yeah,
So they've done that as a psychological study.
yeah,
And what they find is that these things that get the hooks into us
yeah,
are less interfering in life.
yeah,
People's behaviors change just off of the back of that. I think there was another one where on a piece of paper they had, I can't walk around this room. And they just said that out loud while they walked around the room.
yeah,
And guess what? Off the back of that, things started going like this for people.
yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I picked that one out because you mentioned a situation that probably requires you to raise your right hand.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Even more in my mind, Trev, than you need to be now.
So I'm kind of like, I'm curious with that. You mentioned earlier about it in kind of a golf setting,
Yeah,
like people struggling with this. Like,
yeah.
what are the aspects there that you're hearing from others?
Um, I mean, if I'm putting it in a personal environment, again, and this is where I think it's very hard to subconsciously, like you say, the self-esteem stuff is if I were to, I don't anymore, but if I were to play just a simple PGA event, I would rock up there and not even thinking, like knowing I am the worst person here. And I see it over and over again. I've got guys that sort of shoot that are off like 18 that hit the ball like a 10 handicapper, play with them on the golf course. They play like a 10 handicapper, but one or two shots goes wrong, and then they think they're a 28 handicapper. And
Okay.
the mindset, I mean, that's if I was putting it in my own way, I I sometimes would, even if I'm playing with 10, 15 handicappers, go, Christ, they hit the ball better than me.
Mm.
I know realistically they don't, but that's how
Okay.
in my head I could be even playing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of feelings show up with that? Like when you're kind of rocking up to these events and like, I'm the worst player here.
Um, I would genuinely be scared
Okay.
to golf,
Yeah.
which is
So
crazy.
fe so feeling kind of nervous, feeling scared.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just that. Would you be willing to just roll into like a
yeah.
little
Let's
kind of
go.
real play here? This
Yeah,
because again, I can certainly relate to that.
yeah,
Yeah. and I'm going to be turning up to Buenos Aires with that very I am the worst kind of person in psychology here.
Yeah.
I will 100% have that. So maybe there's something in here that people can relate to, and
Yeah.
that's certainly a feature of that kind of that questioning of belonging. Yeah, because
Definitely.
right on the back of that is do I belong?
Yeah, it's definitely I said to you it's a trait, but I don't know what you would call it. But one of the things that I do, which I know is a massive detriment to me, is just comparing with anyone and everyone. And I
Yeah,
mean, I'll compare from a 60-year-old tour coach to a just starting out PGA degree coach. I would compare on the spectrum there. And and I know in reality, if I'm looking at this guy that's taught on tour for 20, 30 years, I'm not even 30. What why am I comparing someone that's done 30 years in the industry before you're even 30?
okay, okay, awesome.
All this stuff.
So I'll tell you what, yeah, I'm gonna shift gear here just for a second.
Yeah, yeah.
So you feel like the biggest thing that's hooking you in all of this is this kind of endless comparison.
I would say that would be my personal thing that would make me feel imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Okay. So this constant comparing with like how am I
Yeah.
like
Players.
where's my how do I fit into this group? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like am I kind of like am I here in the pecking order? Am I kind of here? Like how do I belong? And constantly comparing in that sense. Okay. Okay, cool. And that question that I'm hearing is like why? Like why do I constantly compare myself with others?
Yes, that gives
Yeah.
me.
And I guess for the most part, you know, you're coming out on the short end of the stick of those comparisons.
Yeah. And it doesn't
Okay,
matter who it is.
awesome. Okay, very cool. Do you mind if we just do something?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, so I'm just going to grab two completely random things that are on my desk. And okay, so just here, I've got a pen
Yep.
and I've got a pound coin.
Yep.
Yeah. How is the pen better than pound coin? Can be
Um
anything completely arbitrary. Can
you
be
can
anything.
you can write with a pen.
Perfect. Okay. How is the pound coin better than the pen?
Oh, I used to be able to get a fair few Freddos with that £1.
Awesome. So you can buy stuff,
Yeah.
right? How is the pen worse than the pound coin?
You can't buy stuff with a pen.
Okay. How is the pound coin worse than the pen?
You can't write stuff with a pound coin.
Okay, awesome. So we've done two objects and we've done two different relations, better than, worse than,
Yeah.
right? You just came up with things and they could be true, right? Almost
Yeah.
seems like they could actually be true.
Yeah.
Now, did you notice how like fluent that was?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever made that comparison before?
No.
No, but yeah, you just did it right, and we could do anything. So, one of my psychologist colleagues has done the maths on this. Yeah. So if you take 8 objects and 8 more objects and you relate them in 8 different ways and all combinations, do you know how many relations you get?
A lot.
So over 4,000
Wow.
just with 8 objects and
Yeah.
8 more objects and 8 relations. How
Yeah.
many things have you got in your head?
How many things have I got in my head?
Yeah.
There's not even a brain in there, Trev. So
And how many different ways can you relate to everyone around you?
yeah,
Okay. Again,
more than eight.
same professor did the maths on this, and do you know what the answer is?
I dread to think, Trevor. I dread to think.
More than there are molecules in the universe.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, why do I do all these comparisons? It's because you have something in your head that's the equivalent of a Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it does. That's what that thing does. It's just relating, 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 relating all the time, everywhere, with everything, non-stop. This thing, you put the coin in, it's just going round and round 24/7. It
Yeah.
never stops, just
Yeah.
churning out relations, comparisons.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is where there's that little bit of a dark side. Yeah. So we kind of did this with these two arbitrary relations. But what if it was something like this? How am I better than you?
Mm. You are the source of all psychological intelligence.
How are you better than me?
Uh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, just anything. Go for
Um,
it.
I reckon I'm funnier, Trev.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you've been quite nice there, right?
Yeah.
But you do doubt that you could come up with something that really would stab me through the heart.
Um,
Like you could, right?
don't know. I'm not that type of guy, Trev.
Yeah, I'd get that. But this relating machine
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
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 So this is kind of the dark side of this. What we have is a comparison machine. Okay. So what if it was something like this? What if all these comparisons that you're getting swept away with, yeah, like the comparison tide comes in and you just get, yeah, you're all at sea. You with me?
Yeah.
Like, what if this was just our mind doing its thing?
Yeah.
That's what it's being paid to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As I said, more than there are molecules in the universe.
Yeah.
So this is the issue with the self-esteem thing, and that trying to kind of suppress this or tidy it up or make it more rational,
Yeah.
make it more logical. You want to try and tidy that up? Do you want that job?
Mm,
More than there are molecules in the universe?
I'm not great at tidying the house, let alone let
Right?
alone let alone my brain.
You with me?
Yeah.
Like, so what if we could do something else with this? Like, what if we could, pardon the kind of the pun, but what if we could relate to this in a different way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
I think
it kind of feels like you've been wading into the sea and trying to fight the waves and trying to,
I
that was
mean,
actually kind of fun as a kid, right? Wasn't it?
yeah. Yeah.
Trying to
Well,
jump through them, and
yeah. Yeah.
but you come out and you're blue,
Yeah.
number one, because in this country it's freezing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing is exhausting, right? You know, the parents would be loving it because they'd be like, he's going to sleep well tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, have you kind of sensed this exhaustion that comes with these comparisons or trying to
Yeah.
fight these
That's
comparisons?
that's exactly, excuse me, what I was going to say is my memory is shocking, and it's no wonder it's shocking because it's just my brain is just full of that stuff all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's no wonder.
And what if it was something like this? What if it was not so much that your brain was full of that stuff? What if it was that you're constantly in the sea, like wrestling with the waves, trying to fight them, trying to stop them?
Yeah.
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 That's why we have the I don't know if it's a parable, but you know, King Canute, the Danish king who tried to stop the tide coming in, and you know,
Yeah.
so we can be a bit like that,
Yeah.
yeah, with that approach. So what if, as you said, your memory being struggling with that? You know, you can be in a conversation with someone on the beach, but if you're constantly running off and jumping in the waves,
Yeah.
you're not going to remember a lot of that conversation.
Nope.
Yeah, like physically you might be there, but mentally you're,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, okay. What's that? Just out of interest, what's that like to kind of to hear it like that?
Um, it wouldn't. It doesn't. What? It's not the word I'm looking for. It doesn't like it suppresses. It almost shifts the importance of it, if that makes sense. Like to me, it's like I know I'm like this. I know I've got this imposter syndrome. I know at some point I'm gonna again. back down and stop doing the things that I want to do. But that sort of goes, it goes a little bit backwards. It just goes, okay, I'm just crashing a few waves here. At
Mhm.
some point, it's going to slow down. So
Yeah.
just almost just keep.
Like if you were to give that process a name, so you're turning up to an event, yeah.
Yeah,
And again, at every level, people, if you've got amateurs listening to this, if you've got pros listening to this, whoever, every level we can relate to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
in
Like
life.
where do I fit in? Like how am I stacking up? How am I comparing?
Yeah,
And then that, oh, what's my game like? But I did this thing last week. Actually, I hit that really good shot. Maybe I can do that. And yeah, then I'll be further up in the group. What if I? So there's all of that.
yeah,
Yeah, like the waves. Yeah,
yeah.
like I wonder. Like, were you playing an event this year?
No,
Okay, interesting.
no.
Would you play an event this year if you could develop the skill of being able to metaphorically kind of just sit on the beach?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because what you've been doing is you've been jumping in,
yeah.
the Atlantic Ocean, trying to fight these waves, freezing cold. You come out battered and blue,
No armbands.
no armbands. Yeah. You got seaweed all kind of around
That
you.
would be a
You're
favour.
kind of spitting out salt water.
Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely.
Whilst you're also trying to play golf.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder, how about this? I do love coming up with metaphors on the fly, as you probably experienced, but have you ever seen you ever hit golf balls on the beach before?
I haven't. No.
But have you ever seen that before?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Seen it. Yeah,
sometimes the guys, I remember I mean, this is kind of showing my age, but there was this wonderful picture in a golf magazine of Ernie Els before the British Open at St Andrews. I think it was 1995.
yeah,
Um, and he was using that as a way of sharpening up his iron play, kind
yeah,
of practicing from that kind of hard packed sand. And like, what if you could develop the skill of being able to play your game on the beach rather than fighting the waves?
yeah, yeah.
Like, if you could do that, would you be more or less willing to play an event?
Yes, a lot more willing than I am now. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And kind of what value do you think you'd be honoring by embracing that, by playing?
Um. Hmm.
And I don't even necessarily ask that question for you to answer, which is like a strange thing to say, right? But
Yeah.
what if that was maybe a question for you to inhabit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if I could play like this kind of more genuine thing,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
if I could
think it
play
would.
my game,
It would. It would. It would give me a lot more respect for myself,
interesting.
if that makes
Mm,
sense.
mm,
Um. Yeah, I would say I would. It would. Yeah, it would give me self-respect, I think.
mm. Do you feel like that's something that's important to you? Like being
Uh,
able to do things that are respectful to yourself?
I mean, it is very important, yes.
Mm,
I doubt I do it often.
mm.
No.
Okay. Okay. So I wonder if we could do a little thing that might help us to make that kind of shift between like seeing that there's part of us that can see the waves
Yeah,
rather than just being the part of us that's constantly like smashing them, like here comes the bit of self-doubt, take a baseball bat to it, right?
yeah,
you
yeah,
know or take your driver to it.
yeah,
Yeah. Here comes the anxiety, here comes the comparison.
yeah,
So rather than trying to smash every wave,
yeah.
look how that works out.
Yeah,
You with
that's
me?
definitely a few
Do,
new
do, the, do
drivers.
the waves stop? Do
Nope.
they what? Or do they? They always feel like they increase in frequency when you're playing that game. Um, have you got a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil at all?
I do not have that handy. I will 2 seconds.
Yeah, awesome. Go for it.
Right, let's do it.
Love it. It's kind of cool that, and you just nipped off screen. And if you'd been gone for a bit longer, I could have done all kinds of crazy stuff. Just me and the audience now.
The power of editing, Trev. The power of editing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the limelight, Trevor, not you. I'm
There
the
we go.
limelight.
Can just feel that. Feel that
Yeah.
mask back in. Okay, awesome. Okay, so would you mind what have you got? Like an A4 piece of paper?
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So if you were to draw a circle kind of in the middle of that, in the
Yep.
middle of one of those pages, there's about a third of the page.
Yep.
Okay. And what I want you to just kind of write in there is, as you said, that when this stuff really shows up, when these comparison kind of relations really get going,
Yep.
and you're really in the waves, you said this kind of anxiousness, yeah,
Yep.
feeling afraid. Is that right? Being scared?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to just kind of write that down as like an experience, put it in that circle?
Yep. This makes good audio, this, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I think that anticipation of where this is going is quite
oh yeah,
palpable.
it's building.
Yeah,
Need a drum
this is
roll
this is cool.
on.
What have you got in there? Do you want to show? Do
I've
you want to
got
show
yeah,
us to
yeah.
the screen? Would you be willing to show us?
Oh, my handwriting is terrible. I don't know if you.
That's all right.
That's it.
Just
Oh,
back up a little bit. That's okay. There
oh,
we go.
that's it.
Awesome.
It
Awesome.
says scared, anxious, no belief, and feeling of like not good enough.
Okay. 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 So scared, anxious, no belief, not good enough. Yeah. What's it like to see that?
Um,
What's
it,
showing up for you?
it's concerning
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't. Not that you shouldn't think like that, but it's not a great way of thinking.
Okay. So I shouldn't think that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
So
feel it? I don't know
not,
how good your release is at the moment, but you just
not that
smashed. You just smacked a driver straight into that wave. Could you feel it? Yeah.
Yeah, need a new tensile glue after that, I think.
I shouldn't feel this.
Yeah.
Like we all just saw it. Like you were wading in, like, get away. Yeah, I'm gonna hit this wave 300 yards. Because I know you've been doing the speed stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just on the outside of that circle, would you be willing to write George's journey?
Yeah.
Just kind of around the outside of that circle.
Yep.
Okay. There we go. Awesome. And then what I like to do is I just want you to draw around the outside of that a much bigger circle. Lovely. And on the outside of that,
Yep.
I'd like you to write George.
You're testing my spelling, Trevor.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it like to see that there's a part of you that's bigger than
Yeah.
any of that stuff?
Yeah. 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 There's a lot more to it than just that.
Hmm.
Mm.
Would you be wanting to do something that is actually a little bit uncomfortable, but it's kind of like a cool little exercise? Okay.
as long as you don't mind the mask.
Yeah. So this is what we'd call an exposure exercise. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a gold standard in psychology for particularly when we've had areas where we struggle a little bit. So typically when I'm working with players who have suffered with anxiety and stuff like that, this is really gold standard stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, let's just imagine that we're going to shrink down into that smaller circle for a second, but we're going to do so with our breath. So we're going to really sit inside of all of those comparisons. Yeah, I'm comparing. We're just going to sit inside of that. We're just going to do so with our breath. So what I want you to do is breathe it, like really empty your lungs to like 0% capacity. And then for 20 seconds, and I will warn you, this isn't pleasant. Okay. But for 20 seconds, I just want you to then breathe in the bottom 10% of your capacity.
Shall
So
I
you're going to
make
fully
sure
exhale.
around?
Say again.
You'll
You'll be right.
around.
Just for 20 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
So you with me on that? So we're
Yeah.
literally going all the way down, and then we're just going to breathe within that. I'll do it with you. You ready?
Yeah.
And breathe. What did you notice?
Trapped. It was
Okay.
tight. Tightness. Head went a little bit funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt very,
Not pleasant.
yeah, secluded.
Yeah.
Mm.
Did that remind you of anything? That sense of constriction, that discomfort, that
Yeah, yeah.
you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what if we were to do that again, okay, I'm gonna just breathe in that low 10%, just do
Yeah.
10 seconds,
Yeah.
and then I'll offer you a prompt.
Okay.
Once we get there. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, just fully let go of the breath, like we're doing some free diving, they kind of do that. And then,
Yeah.
so let it go. Let's spend 10 seconds in that bottom 10%. And now really take a deep breath. And what was that like?
Relief.
Hmm.
Mm.
Like, what if you've been kind of inside of these comparisons and these relations in
Yeah.
that constriction, kind of in that tight little ball. Yeah.
Trapped
Where
in.
you have to wear this mask, where you have to be super funny, where you kind of have to achieve. You can't look silly. Don't
Yeah.
ask the wrong thing. You with me? What if in that full deep breath, what you get access to is that part of you that is bigger than
Yeah.
any of that?
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost like trapped in 10% of what there actually is of you.
Now we did that for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
How about you try that for 20 years? See how
Yeah.
that plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
See,
ideal.
the cruel thing about imposter syndrome and the way that we're kind of encouraged to combat it, okay, is that in that process, that smaller circle gets even tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the cruelness of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I would say is like my cycle would be: compare, feel like a fraud, go into my shell, raise some self-esteem, compare, like it just goes like that. instead
Yeah.
of
Okay.
like, and you end up, like you say, it ends up being like you start at 100. By the time you end up doing it for so long, you're down at like 5% of what you were or what
Mm.
you are. It's interesting.
And the kind of the funny thing about that wave metaphor is if you smash those waves for long enough, there's going to be a point at which they stop coming.
Yeah.
And what we derive from that is that we did something that stopped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're like, yes, that worked.
Yeah.
I boosted my self-esteem and now everything's way better. It's all flat calm. I can do my thing now. I can do my thing. Hold on, what the hell was that? Oh God.
An army.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we're back at it all over again.
Yeah.
And all the while, the clock's ticking.
Yeah.
Like life is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is why psychology, and not many people can know this, but this is why psychology now see that self-esteem kind of concept as it's done more harm than good.
Yeah.
Because it's ended up with a cultural message that we need to kind of fight how we feel. We need to fight how we think. And it literally showed up in that conversation that we had just then. And you said, I can't have this.
Yeah.
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 You literally said that. I can't have it.
Yeah.
Who says? Like, who's it? Like, when was the first time you ever heard that you can't think what you think
Yeah.
and you can't feel what you feel?
Yeah.
Like, where did you first hear that?
Oh, a long time ago.
Just
Yeah.
stuff that you picked up innocently, right? Read it in a magazine, or kind of picked it up on the back of a. See what I mean? On the oh yeah, that must be true.
Yeah.
But what I'd ask you to look at is, what does your experience tell you? Okay.
Yeah.
So the really classic kind of move within ACT is, who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust your mind, or are
Yeah.
you going to trust your experience?
Yeah.
Because your mind is King Canute in this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So what I would be very interested for you to, um, something like, we could call it, when you're like, maybe would you be kind of willing to enter into an event and try this stuff out?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Because we've got a load of people watching that are,
Oh,
right? So there's an accountability piece to this, right? It's not just me and you in this
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. You're not doing this for them.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
Last
Yeah.
time I checked, this is your journey, not theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we got a little playful with this, it might be something like, do you know the Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what if this was like, here comes the waves.
Yeah.
Do, 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 do. Yeah. So when you turn up to that event, what do you think is going to show up?
I'm just going to be singing that song.
Yeah. And they're all the waves are going to roll in, likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe there's a new way that you can respond to that. Like, maybe you can focus on, things that are more useful to you.
Yeah. I mean, that visual,
There we go. There we go.
that visual on its own just shows there's a lot more to it than just this like just this little section of you. There's a lot more
Nice.
to you than just that.
Hmm.
I think you like you say with the wave stuff, is I've been so like so combating those waves that I've got lost in them. It's almost pulled you out to sea instead of going on back onto the beach and just going, wait, there's a lot more to you than just smashing these waves.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I kind of had this image of you like treading water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's exhausting. That's
Got
exhausting.
got lost at sea there, Trev. Got lost at sea.
Yeah,
I've been saved.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's interesting.
Well, maybe there's some solid ground that you can put your feet on. And I think, for instance, when I take stage in Argentina,
Yeah.
so just to fill out that context, so I've been kind of invited to co-present basically all of this new app that's kind of been created and how it's been used.
Yeah.
I think I described it on the last podcast, and it's basically like if TrackMan and TPI and Gears, which is all of the best tech, the best of the best, let's say, in golf instruction, if those three had a baby,
Yeah.
And then kind of gave you some data to work with, right? As a golf coach, would you want that data?
Yep.
Yeah, like it could pretty much turn you into Chris Como if you had that level of insight, right?
Yeah.
Or at least in the eyes of your student, you would be incredibly effective. And this is essentially what this app is doing for athletes in psychology, and it's for everything in psychology, but it's just myself and Billy Ryan from the UAP Performance Group are presenting, and I work with athletes with this. So, when I take stage in Argentina to present all this information, those waves are going to be rocking. Like they might not be, but I'm convinced there's a very likely chance that, as you said, tsunami is going to be coming. And there's this other part of me, that's that also cares about contribution.
Yeah,
that's like one of my big things.
Yeah,
that's I can kind of feel that in here. This sense of wanting to contribute something that's worthwhile.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'll be putting that front and center.
Yeah. Yeah. That and then that is gonna shadow. That's gonna dim down the wind, which makes those waves lighten.
Yeah, and just seeing them for what they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is basically
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Pen or
That's
a
all
pound.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all those comparisons are.
Yeah.
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 That's what our brain is designed to do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I said, we're kind of playing like a bit of we're playing like a meta game here, is that we're changing how we relate to relating.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to get geeky just for a second, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're going to go super geeky on this, we're calling it arbitrarily applicable relational responding.
Yeah.
If anyone fancies like reading up on it, but just don't bother, right? Because that's a rabbit hole.
You've nailed it
down 10 years ago.
You've nailed it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's essentially that process. So
yeah, it is.
So just
being better at how you relate things, I think, isn't it? It's definitely it's thinking about how you relate to things instead of just diving into that bomb hole straight away.
Yeah.
Like you did with a pen, and that is I know, like, it maybe still not this way, but a starting point would be, if you think someone's slightly better on something, then if you go with the opposite way and go, okay, but he's got that, but right now I've got this, then you're you're starting that little wave, aren't you, of changing the thought process.
And there's a little change there, but also could it be something like, he's better at that and I'm better at this, and just see them as waves. And then come back on the beach and recognize, actually, what else is available? Like if I was, no one ever suffered from imposter syndrome marooned on a desert island. Okay, this is all in a social context. So I would be curious in that one around, if we were to just kind of drop all of that and just let it be. The Beatles are getting a massive shout out this episode.
The whole album.
All of their album sales are flying up. They're going to get one more sale out of this. it's going to be me. But if we were to, if we were to just drop all of that and play a different game, something like what could I contribute here? What kind of move could I make that's more in line with who I want to be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that is looking stupid.
Yeah.
Maybe that is asking the dumb question.
Yeah.
But in that move, yeah, can you
Yeah.
feel kind of even this? I just want to pull attention to this right now. Like we're recording something that's going to go out, and who knows what's watching, and what you've opened up with, yeah, and how honest you've been.
Yeah.
Like, does it feel like there's been a lot of kind of this going on, or does it feel like there's integrity in this conversation?
I've tried to be as honest as possible with a little bit of a funny spin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hasn't.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. I think it's really, really cool. Like, what you've done here and kind of calling this out, because it's almost like the world's biggest secret.
Yeah.
Like if everyone wrote down their struggle with this, right, and they carry this card around like this, like, because that's the part, I can't let anyone see this because then I'll be out of the group, or what will people think? If everybody turned their card over at the same time on the planet, it will say the same stuff.
Yeah, it would.
What will they think? How will they see this? What if I'm exposed? It all seems to say the same stuff.
I think that's one of the biggest things, isn't it? Is like, not that I am, I coach people and they won't ever see that side of me, that they're feeling the same thing. And if your coach is feeling it, then it makes you feel maybe a little less anxious that you feel that way as well. So
do you mind if I just, maybe if we finish up, do you mind if I kind of put this maybe in closing?
Yep.
Because you go to quite a few of these coaches things, don't you?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And I guess they're fairly close knit.
Yeah.
You've got what, 10, 15, 20 coaches all in the thing. What if you kind of put your hand up at the very start of the day and said something like this? Like, would we all be willing to just write down, the thing that we're most concerned about?
Yeah.
That has this, right? That might in some way, if this thing, if this thought, if this feeling, if this concern hooks us, then we're going to miss out on something important today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they're willing to, if everyone writes down their thing, and then they don't have to share it, right? They could do, but if they're willing to share it, I mean, that could be an interesting day, right?
Yeah, really interesting.
Like,
day.
what if everyone was then free to ask whatever they wanted?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a different day for sure.
I'm taking this out of the Steve Hayes playbook, by the way, because as a professor of, hundreds of undergraduates through his PhD programs, their first day on campus, wet behind the ear, he would come in and as the professor, he's the guy, right? I mean, this guy is like a rock star. And he put out, this is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of not being smart enough. I'm afraid of not looking good enough in front of all of you guys.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
oh, yeah.
What the?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unreal.
Yeah, that is crazy. That is crazy.
I mean, this guy's got a brain the size of Africa.
Slightly bigger than mine then.
Awesome. This has been a great chat. I hope this has been useful to someone.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be useful to a lot of people. It's been brilliant having you back on, and we'll be 10 with Trev very soon, I think.
Brilliant. Love it, George.
Cheers.
Thanks so much, mate.
I appreciate coming on. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, mate.